has been 16 years since the last time I saw my sister. 16 years since I heard her voice. Because 16 years ago, she was silenced.
Well, what's really interesting about this case and frustrating is that investigators had all of the evidence that they needed to close the case by 2012. Gilgo Beach is on the southern shore of Long Island, New York. The area around it is a popular destination during the summer.
But to the north side of the highway is this scrubby marsh that looks like it's basically impenetrable. Shannon Gilbert was a 23-year-old woman who lived in Jersey City. She had ended up selling sex to make a living. The night Shannon Gilbert disappeared in May 2010, she was visiting the home of a client out in very secluded, gated community in Long Island called Oak Beach.
There's somebody after me.
Where are you, ma'am?
I don't know.
Wait a minute. Where are you going? Where are you going?
She was screaming sort of vaguely about being in trouble and was never seen again alive after that.
Shannon's disappearance fell in the jurisdiction of the Suffolk County Police Department, then one of the largest police forces in the country. The investigation started slowly. It took months to connect Shannon's 911 call to her missing persons report in Jersey City.
7 months after Shannon had first gone missing, a Suffolk County police officer was out in Gilgo Beach with a police dog, and the police dog picked up a scent, and in the following 4 days they uncovered the bodies of 4 women, none of which was Shannon Gilbert.
Police started calling these women the Gilgo Beach Four.
All of them were in their 20s, all of them were sex workers, all of them were white, petite, and all of them had been similarly bound and wrapped in burlap.
And this was sort of the first alarming sign that they had a serial killer who was operating in the area around Gilgo Beach.
Police discovered 4 more bodies within 2 miles of the Gilgo Four. Then, the FBI started assisting in the investigation.
They have a much larger toolbox than local authorities. From the beginning, there was a lot of dysfunction and infighting in the investigation.
Richard Dormer, who was police commissioner when the bodies were first found, and Thomas Spoter, who was the district attorney, publicly sparred over whether there was more than one killer.
In late 2011, James Burke was named police chief. According to an internal affairs investigation, Burke already had a history of his own with sex workers.
And he was sort of known as this swaggering street cop.
One of the family's lawyers put it to me that you don't bring in the robber to investigate the robberies.
Burke replaced many of the department's top officials with hand-picked candidates. Departing investigators didn't have enough time to brief their replacements. During Burke's first year as police chief, the FBI determined the suspect lived in Massapequa Park and commuted to Midtown Manhattan.
But when James Burke came in, he instilled in his officers at Suffolk County Police Department a deep distrust of the FBI.
And Burke's relationship with the FBI only got worse. He became the target of a bureau investigation after he and top officers brutally beat a man who they thought stole a bag from Burke's car.
For years, you have a jurisdiction that, one, is fighting to keep the feds, who are helpful in serial killer cases historically, out of the case, and 2, who are also just completely distracted with a full-blown criminal conspiracy to keep themselves out of prison.
Burke later pled guilty to a federal civil rights violation and conspiracy to obstruct justice. Infighting and dysfunction continued after Burke's departure. A new police chief couldn't heal the broken relationship between the SCPD and the FBI. And so, the investigation stalled for the next 7 years.
Our goal was, and continues to be, bringing justice to the victims and to their families.
By this point, it was coming up to 12 years since the bodies had first been found. There was really no major progress being made.
Starting in January 2022, there's a new DA, Ray Tierney. Tierney creates a new task force. Investigators from multiple agencies essentially go over documents and evidence that was already gathered in the case.
A New York State trooper who was trawling through evidence came across this witness ID, this tip that described the potential suspect who had been seen with Amber Costello shortly before she went missing, and this description of the first generation Chevrolet Avalanche pickup truck. The current district attorney confirmed to us that that piece of information had been on file since the women's bodies had been found, but it had never been followed up on.
That document apparently sat neglected for a decade. We spoke to investigators who were involved in the case, who all just said that they weren't aware of it.
Nobody was able to tell us why the information was overlooked.
The task force used the tip to identify Rex Heuermann as a suspect. Investigators covertly followed him for months building a case, which included using a discarded pizza crust to link Heuermann's DNA to what was found on one of the bodies.
I'm standing here with my law enforcement partners in the Gilgo Task Force to announce the indictment of defendant Rex Andrew Heuermann for the murders of Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello.
Police later charged Heuermann with the murder of Maureen Brainard-Barnes. Heuermann has pled not guilty to all charges.
Rex Heuermann was an architect. He lives in Massapequa Park in Long Island. His architecture firm was based in Manhattan, so he commuted there to work.
The killings got a ton of national attention, partly because it appeared for years that the case was largely neglected by police.
The true crime industry has literally exploded in recent years. With the rise of Netflix and podcasting, this case fit the bill perfectly for that. Each feud, tussle, oversight, everything that happened in the police just meant another delay in solving the case, which meant more time for the families of the victims to have to wait for justice.
While the loss of my mom has been extremely painful for me, the indictment by the grand jury has brought hope for justice for my mom and my family.